I want to hear all about Rachel's Kitchen. I know the number one question you get is, why is your name Debbie and why is the name of your company Rachel?
Well, Rachel is my daughter, so I named the company after her almost 18 years ago. We're celebrating our 18th anniversary September 1st, so in about 2 weeks. So it's named after her. She was a baby. She was 2 years old when I started the concept, and I was pregnant with my son. And well, I wasn't pregnant with him when I started planning the concept. I was
Sure.
pregnant with him as we opened, so that's why it was named after
Oh,
her.
that's sweet.
Long-winded answer, but that's what it is.
And you get the question all the time. I mean, really, right out of the chute here, you've got all these beautiful awards. I know the awards go up all the way up towards the ceiling. You showed me earlier. Super impressive that Rachel's Kitchen has been a best of Las Vegas. Not to mention, you have a ton of competition in Las Vegas. I don't care how many categories they're awarding. That is super impressive. But let's start out and tell me, how did you even get started in this business?
It's been a while. I started in LA with a small little coffee shop and gift shop, and I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, loved entertaining, loved having people like in my home and catering to them and things like that. So I started with this, coffee shop and gift shop, and I thought this gift shop's just going to do like fantastic, and people are going to come and they're going to have coffee and they're going to buy all these like wonderful things. And I quickly learned that even if they do that, there's no way to make any money with that. How am I going to sell, a greeting card and a cup of coffee and scale anything or do anything? So I started having like some desserts, and then I added some sandwiches into the thing, and slowly but surely the sandwiches took off and the greeting cards did not. And, changed it from a coffee and gift shop to more of a cafe, and created more salads, and just slowly started to like expand the menu with the space that I had and the limitations, and took that and opened up another one which focused more on some food, and then continued to scale that way in Los Angeles when I was there. And I had multiple locations in LA, and then for a while I started building them and designing them, and putting the menus together and everything, and then kind of selling them off. And when my husband and I decided that we did not want to raise Rachel, our daughter, when I was actually pregnant with her in LA, we started kind of branching out and looking at, where do we want to be
Mhm.
that's still close to home, but not in LA. And I know Vegas is a very, very strange place to pick, because most people think of Vegas and they're like, okay, now you raised your daughter in a casino. But we are in the suburbs.
Right.
And when we moved here, almost 18 years ago, it was just a great place for like young families and young professionals. And
Sure.
just especially coming from LA with how busy it was and how hectic it was just really nice to just be able to like have, a space and have a yard and be able to like walk her in a stroller, and people were just nice. And, it was sort of like a melting pot of people that were just moving here to kind of get away from, the hecticness of Southern California. So we really liked it. We fell in love here, and it took us a while to do a full move, but we finally did that after I sold off the locations that I had. My husband transitioned from his business, and we started out here, and we're here.
So you opened this little quaint cafe in Las Vegas in 2006.
Yes. So I took, kind of the tried and true recipes from the different creations that I had in LA, and brought them together and created Rachel's Kitchen. And fortunately for me, I had some team members that had been with me for years in LA, and they moved out here with me in
Wow.
to Vegas. So that of course made things a lot easier for me. And, not an entire team, but I had like a good group of people, and two of which are still with me today. So I'm couldn't be any more fortunate when it comes to that.
That is
Um,
amazing.
and they've just helped me, grown and scaled, and obviously they're family to me, but it's been amazing in that regard. So started with a small Rachel's Kitchen. It was 1,000 square feet in a suburb of Vegas called Summerlin, close to where I lived, and it just started to do really well. I mean, we had some mixed reviews because some people at the time, we have fresh juices and, goat cheese on the menu and stuff. And, 18 years ago in Vegas, people were more used to McDonald's or American cheese or,
Hmm.
a salad from grocery store or whatever. So some people would walk in and say, what is this? Why are you putting goat cheese on the salad? And why are you juicing vegetables? I mean, this is terrible. You're never going to make it. You should just close up now. And other people would come in and say, my gosh, this is wonderful. We don't have this here. All we have is like fast food chains. And, the closest thing was like Whole Foods Market had opened a couple of years back, and, they had fresh juices and whatnot. So started to kind of just get our own crowd of people, and that slowly grew and grew and grew. And we outgrew our 1,000 square foot location pretty quickly. And I had, multiple developers. Vegas was growing so much in 2005, 2006.
Oh yeah, it was exploding then.
It was exploding, and people were just building and building, and new neighborhoods, were just popping up every 3 months. It was like something new had created. And these developers were like, I'd love you to open, a Rachel's in here. I'd love you to open a Rachel's in here. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't wait to do all of this stuff. But I was pregnant with my son. I had a 2-year-old, and I had a new business in a new city. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I got to do this. I got to do this. And, people talking to me about franchising. And I thought, oh, what is this? I don't know what this, really is about. Obviously I knew what franchising was, but I was like, how can I actually make this happen?
Right.
And started to learn a little bit about franchising, went to a franchise convention, met some people, some consultants and things. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is the way I'm going to grow this brand. I have some of my own, my own thing, keep my core, and I'm going to grow with franchising, and I'm going to do it in Las Vegas. And, this is wonderful. This valley is growing. And it took me a while to learn, and get the documents and the FDD and everything together, because it's a whole different business. And,
Sure.
So I went for it, and, it was great. And 2008, I sat there with all my pretty documents, and I was like, hey guys, I'm ready. And everyone's like, well, that's great for you, because that location we wanted you to open up in, we scrapped that location. We scrapped
Right.
this location. We scrapped that location. And, forget about anybody getting any financing from the bank. So
Sure.
go find some, people that have really deep pockets that want to open up a restaurant in 2008. I was like, yeah, I did a very good job on this timing.
Yeah.
So
No, as a fellow founder, I remember the 2008, 2009 time period very, very well. And it was very tough for us, as most of us in franchising, to sell franchises. In our business, in my business, it was very easy. Our franchisees did very, very well, and they got through it from a standpoint of getting customers. But selling franchise in 2008, oh my gosh, I started selling franchises in 2003. That's when I really started. So I had like a 5-year lead. But for you to start franchising in 2008, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to you, because you probably also were thinking like, is this how it's going to be?
well, it was just, it was so new to me, but then it was just, scary, because everybody was like, oh, you're never, this is never going to happen.
Right.
You have a restaurant, you have a new concept, and you're in Las Vegas of all places. I don't think there were many other areas that you could be in that had been hit quite as hard as
Absolutely.
Vegas.
Right. It was probably hit one of the hardest.
Oh yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I picked a really good strategy for growth.
Well, let's not get too far down with the story away from the lesson here, because I do have a lot of emerging founders that are listening or watching the podcast, and we are someday, I don't know when it's going to be, but we are going to have an economic downturn. What would be a piece of advice that you would give these founders in preparation for running a business that enters a recession? How do they get through it?
I think you just have to hold on to your core, and you just have to be the best that you can be. There's, the book Good to Great. It's really just about that, just keep believing. Obviously don't overdo anything, don't overspend, but just keep believing in your product and whatever it is that you want to do. It will happen. It's hard. It's hard work. It may not go according to plan. It may, take several additional years or whatever it may
Sure.
be, but, have faith and stick with it, I would say, and just work hard. It's not always going to be, and I've had ups and downs even after, the recession, and, still go through the ups and downs and whatnot, but
That's
just
business, right?
keep
There's
doing
ups
it.
and
Yeah.
downs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing is forever. A great economy is not forever, nor is a bad economy. Nothing is ever,
Exactly.
right? Everything's in cycles. And I think that's a great lesson for folks, that no matter what economy they're in. In fact, there's been data that show that some of the greatest companies of our time were started during a recession. And one of the advantages for you and for other companies that start during a downtime is that it does keep competition out, because most people are afraid to start a new business. So that you actually get this gap, you get this window of opportunity, this time where you get to grow and build a business when nobody else is doing it. And there's something to be said about that.
Definitely. I agree with that.
So you go ahead on this franchise journey, you start out 2008. How long does it take before the first Rachel's Kitchen franchise opens?
2010, the first one opened. So it was still a terrible economy, but kind of back to what you were saying, there wasn't a lot of competition for people wanting to open businesses, and there were a lot of second generation restaurants available. That portion of it, people could get into a business for much less than they could, during better times. So we were fortunate enough to find a location that was an existing restaurant in a area of Henderson that had been hit really, really hard, but we felt like within a couple of years, this outdoor center was going to be turned around. It had just gone through like a bankruptcy and a new owner had taken it over. So there was a lot of positive going into it. But it was scary, and the franchisee was, great at the time. And we were like, okay, we're going to go for this, and we're going to hope and pray and do everything we possibly can to, get it going. And it was a little bit bigger than my existing location, but it still wasn't that big. So it was, kind of a calculated risk. And thankfully, the new owner of the center did, breathe some new life into the center, cleaned it up, started bringing in like re-tenanting and bringing in good, partners for us that we could scale with, and kind of, do more community events and things like that, and kind of just bring some more life into it. And thankfully, we made it, and that location is still here today, and it's grown from, I think it was about 1,500 square feet. We've taken, additional space, and that center's completely been redeveloped and looks great and things. But yeah, it's scary,
And look at that. It was scary, but you did it scared.
Yeah. Terrifying. Walk the little, oh my goodness, what are we doing? But, but calculated risks also, and take something too large. We took a smaller spot, tried to negotiate as best as we could, went into second generation, spot, so that we weren't paying for new construction and things like that. So tried to do it as safely as possible, but it's always scary,
Yeah, that's business.
Exactly.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.